Chapter 21. I was shocked when we got to the community center to see the parking lot full of cars. I glanced at my dad and grandparents, but they were quiet. We walked through the door and it was even more crowded than I thought. I didn't even know some of the people. The bleachers were pulled out and I noticed many of the tribal elders sitting in the front. They were laughing and visiting loudly. Daniel Drumbeater was telling a story to several of them, and it must have been good because they were all cackling. I could tell that some of our cousins from Kukuching and Seine River were there too. There were kids everywhere running in circles on the gym floor and playing tag. My cousin Elroy Dubois came over. He was my age, but with a classical Ojibwe build, broad-shouldered but short in the legs. He held out his hand, offering a formal handshake, and said, "Congratulations, cuz." I grabbed his hand and pulled him into a bro hug. I had no idea so many people would be here. Yeah, it's a big deal. Elroy wasn't much of a talker, but he didn't walk away. I think he was genuinely proud of me. I felt a subtle swell of energy running through me and around the room. Elroy's sister Dora came over too. She was a few years younger than Elroy, but their resemblance was unmistakable. "I heard you shot a big moose, Ezra." She was so cute, her eyes as big as maple sugar cakes and words that seemed to tumble out in slow motion. She just looked up at me when I gave her a hug. "Yeah," I said. "His horns were this big." I spread my arms out to show the width of the moose rack, exaggerating their girth and intentionally giving Elroy a gentle smack in the chest. Both of them started to laugh. We chatted about fishing for a couple of minutes, but more and more people kept coming up to me. My cousin Stanley sauntered up next. He had survived that short stay in northeast Minneapolis years ago, but stayed on the res since then. He was my dad's age. "Ez, congratulations on your first kill." I agreed to help get everything set up. "Give me a hand with the tables and chairs." Of course. I was glad to have something to do. We placed numerous tables with chairs around them in front of the bleachers. Then we laid out food mats in a neat line on the floor from east to west to receive Grandma Emma's culinary genius. Stanley and my dad gathered a couple of my other cousins, and together we went back to the truck, hauling all the frozen moose meat in and placing it on the food mats next to all the pots and roasting pans Grandma Emma had been preparing, and all the other cooked food. Now I was starting to feel nervous. My dad placed a chair for me right at the east end of the food mats, and he pulled up a chair and sat next to me. Grandpa Liam and Grandma Emma sat next to him on the south side, starting a circle around the food. As soon as they sat, about 20 men stood up and worked their way through the bleachers and chairs to the food, carrying their own chairs. They sat next to my grandparents one at a time. I hadn't seen Daniel Drumbeater since Nora and I bumped into him at his fish house when we saw the wolves chasing deer on the lake. He wasn't chief of Nigigon Siminicaning First Nation when my parents asked him to be my namesake, but it made me feel a little conspicuous that he was chief now. In addition to their other duties, it was a special right and obligation of namesakes to support their charges at ceremonies like this. He looked down the line of people seated and caught my eye. Then he winked and sat back in his chair. The tribal elders and community members moved up close, and we were eventually surrounded by rings of people in a large circle with the food in the middle. Everyone was looking at me. It was then that I noticed Nora George sitting by Ruth George and Rita Kingfisher at the west end of the circle. I could feel my heart rate accelerating as Nora gave me a shy smile and a little wave, her fingers extending beyond the sleeves of a pink running shirt. My dad leaned over to me and whispered in my ear, "Ezra, when I offer you the food, you have to refuse the first 3 times." Then he gave me detailed instructions about what to say and do after that. My cousin Stanley took a birch bark bowl full of tobacco and slowly walked around the room, giving some to each person in attendance, including the kids. Grandpa Liam stood up and spoke briefly in Ojibwe. Indina we magani dog. Oda pinada wow asema. Oshkintage anangoni ni. It was customary to build a fire in the stone ring outside the door of the community center when there was a ceremony in progress. Many people took their tobacco outside and put it in the fire. Others lit pipes and sat inside the center, smoking. It took several minutes, but when everyone had settled back into their places, Grandpa Liam stood and started to speak again. Indiwa magani dog. Onjida Gigi Witabimin, Ani Niniwi, Nojinshe. This time he spoke for a long time, talking to our Creator and the spirits in the four winds, the water and woods. He mentioned the animals, birds, and fish, Nenabojo, the sun, moon, and stars. He told the people how grateful our family was to welcome me to the ranks of hunters sitting next to him. Then he turned to me and told me to tell the story of my kill. This was my first time speaking in public except for a couple of minor school classroom presentations. I stumbled and bumbled my way through it, but people were laughing when I explained about Grandpa Liam taking a nap rather than coaching me through my shot. I could see the man nodding approval when I finished the story. My dad uncovered one of the pots, used a spoon to grab a morsel of moose meat, kneeled in front of my chair, and held it up to my mouth. Gwes. Gawin, indinanimag, abinogianag, ayan zigwa, gigo, ji mijawad. No, I said, following his instructions. I am thinking of children who don't have enough to eat. There were a few murmurs and nods among the men sitting next to Grandpa Liam. Gwes. Gawin. Indinanimag. Gichi aya ag gashtisosig wajibami idiozawad. No, I'm thinking of my elders who can't get out in the woods to hunt for themselves. There was more nodding, and I could feel all eyes on me as my dad pulled the spoon back and offered it to me a third time. Gwes. Gawin. Indinanimag. Indinawemaganag. Nij anashinabeg. Minawa. Gapi ijajig. Ji wido kawawid. No, I'm thinking of my family, my community, and people who came here today to support me. He pulled the spoon back and then offered it to me a fourth time. Gwes. He nodded, and I opened my mouth and took the meat, chewing slowly and aware of every set of eyes in the building still fixed on me. My dad returned to his seat and Grandpa Liam started to speak again. Ezra, you just changed your life. Up until today, you were what we call a dependent. You depended on all of the people in this room to provide all of your food. My gaze shifted around the room from Daniel Drumbeater to the George family to my grandparents and my dad. Grandpa Liam continued, but today you are providing for all of us. This is what it means to be an adult. From today on, you will have a special power. It's the power to gather resources. You will have it when you hunt and trap, when you fish, when you pick berries, and when you get a job. Use your power to think of children in need, elders who can't get it for themselves, your family and community. My dad leaned over and whispered to me, you have to get up now. Open the first box of moose meat and start giving packages to everyone in the circle. Come back for more when the box is empty and keep giving it away until there's nothing left. Move clockwise. I did what I was told. I grabbed several packages of meat from the first box and circled around the feast to the start of the line, handing them to Daniel Drumbeater and the other men sitting next to him. Daniel smiled when I handed him a large back strap. Gidish Pennyman, oui, I am proud of you. Stanley slapped me on the arm when I gifted some to him. Miigwech. It was a strange feeling, giving away my kill. The elders seemed so happy to receive packages of meat. Many people shook my hand. I felt I mattered in a way I had never felt before. Something was stirring inside of me, and I knew that if I had anything else to give, I would gladly do so. It took me 20 minutes to finish circling the people and giving away my kill. When I sat back down, Grandpa Liam invited all the other successful hunters to share teachings with me. Some of them spoke for a long time. Daniel Drumbeater said, Ezra, you'll notice many different kinds of moose in the woods. Calves, cows, young bulls, and big, mature bulls with a large rack of horns. Moose can be dangerous. They are usually happy to eat lily pad roots and be left alone, but on the rare occasions when one attacks a human, it is not usually a big, mature, fully antlered male that charges. The most likely moose to charge a person is a young bull, and that's the moose that's most likely to be shot or hit by a car. You see, Ezra, the moose is a metaphor for manhood. We often make our biggest mistakes when we are young. That's when we are more likely to drive too fast and pay the price, to experiment with alcohol and drugs, to go on a date and not respect our partner, or to hurt ourselves. If you want to live to be a big, mature, fully antlered bull, you have to act like one. You have to move a little slower and think before you act. That hit me in a way that all the books and lessons at school never could. I made a silent vow to move a little slower and think before I acted. I would listen to my elders and I'd protect them too. After they were done, the men stood and came to shake my hand. Many of them gave me gifts, skinning knives, a flint and steel, pouches of tobacco, a new set of gloves, a flannel shirt, and more. We started the feast immediately after that. I helped my cousins make plates for the elders, and most of them moved to the tables in front of the bleachers to eat. Everyone wanted to talk to me, to ask about school, when I'd get my driver's license, how I liked working on the trap line. I hadn't realized until then how much the members of my community watched me and cared about me. I wanted to make them proud. I found myself wishing that my mom was here to see this. I wanted to make her proud too.